Hey guys, Zap here, and today we're taking a look on why some of the best coaches in the game right now have been struggling in bronze, and that's a pressing question apparently. So I'm here to explain, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, and there's some of the things that I've noticed that people are not talking about. So I'm a bit late on this. I apologize, I don't really use Reddit almost at all. But this just came up recommended to me on YouTube in like 2 different occasions with the Nemesis reaction and stuff. So apparently it's a big deal, and a lot of people are giving like mixed opinions. So I'm gonna try to dissect this and to explain you why exactly are the best coaches struggling in bronze. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the initial hypothesis, which is the skill gap is now narrower than it used to be between bronze and challenger, which I believe to be false. Now, there's many reasons why it might appear that way, and we're gonna talk about them. So firstly, I don't think logically looking at this, the game is way more complex than it used to be like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, way more complex. So if you compare it to back then, like if a clueless first-time player comes in, he's gonna have a hell of a time trying to learn this game and piece it together. It's absolutely ridiculously difficult to get into League of Legends as of now because it's too demanding. It needs too much knowledge as an entry point to begin the game. Now, that being said, the curve should be a bit faster to learn because there's all these tools already advanced because of people who've learned before. So what we had to learn empirically throughout these 12 years, there are like neat guides and all of that which are going to kind of steer you. They won't like teach you because you don't really learn unless you experience it yourself, but they're going to steer you in the right direction. You're going to try to look at these different things in better ways. So if you want to improve, you can improve faster than before, but the narrower, like the narrow argument between bronze and challenger it's complete bogus. So one reason why people might perceive that the gap is very narrow is, well, psychological. So during my coachings, and I've done numerous coachings, and every time I would try to upload a video of like me coaching a platinum player, a diamond player, a master player, grandmaster player, you will always see one exact comment, always. I can't believe this is a grandmaster because he missed that thing. I can't believe this guy's a platinum because he missed that thing. And that's just the post-analysis and people looking at some gameplay and, oh, I'm silver, I knew this. Oh, I'm silver, I saw this. Those people should not be qualified to judge anyone's gameplay unless they've judged their own gameplay first. Because a lot of the people haven't looked at a single game of their existence, and they're gonna watch someone deconstruct some other higher elo game, and they're gonna be like, okay, I see this, why doesn't he see it? You know? So the first part of it is entirely psychological, in my opinion. It's like me watching Levi or watching Hikaru or Nemo deconstruct a chess game, and I'm like, man, that's so obvious. I know this, but that's a 2000s game, and I would get my queen taken like 3rd move in. You know, like you have to understand that like if you're watching someone with superior knowledge deconstruct a game, it's obviously like gonna be biased. You should try to review your own games, and that's why coaches like are really good at that, because they're attuned to watching their own games and other games so they can kind of figure out what's going on. Basically, one of the key components of coaching is not exactly to tell what they're doing wrong, but actually show them how they can tell themselves what they're doing wrong so they can analyze their own game by themselves. Well, the second reason might be that the game is no longer clean. It's no longer 10 bronzies versus 10 bronzies. We're all beginners just learning the game. The game is too damn old. You have so many banned accounts, so many new people, so many Smurfs, Smurf Q. You have new people, you have old people coming in as new people because they played the game back in the day. Now they decayed, now they probably don't know how to play the game with the new metas, but they understand the game like as they played maybe like earlier. Like I have a lot of friends who played like back in the diamond when the diamond mattered actually and was like decent. Now they don't play, so they go into like gold. They understand the game and they can play well, but they just don't know the latest metas because they don't grind. They don't know how to exactly maximize their impact. So that's the second issue, is that the solo queue is very, very tainted. And this brings me to the third one, which I haven't seen anyone talk about this for some fucking reason. Nobody mentions the variance. Nobody mentions the game impact. And I don't know why. It's such a fundamental thing that everyone's missing, and like even from the like compilations of high coaches, like I haven't seen them mention the variance and the impact. Not every champion has the same impact, and people have to realize that. Not every role has the same impact. And there's this like, you can envision this priority queue in the game, who has impact. Because if you can imagine a game as to be 5 perfect machines versus 5 perfect machines, what would happen? What would happen in that case? The champions with higher impact are going to win, even if it's ever so slightly on one side or another. So let me give an example. You're playing a game, and in the game, there's like enemies have like Akali, they have Irelia, and you're playing Vel'Koz on the other side. Let's take that as an example, because he's notoriously low impact in solo queue. So it goes top to bottom, and the game goes into this, like, asking the priority queue, like, hey, Irelia, are you a really good player? And if she is, she's most likely to carry the game. Okay, and then this guy, are you a good player? And it goes like down the priority queue, who has more impact. Now, this is a super oversimplified version, but the long one would take us like 2 hours to dissect. So you have characters who are just gonna do more in certain games, which increases the conversion between skill to LP. Okay, not every champion does that, and that's the example with Coach Curtis that he has done, because Coach Curtis has played in bronze to demonstrate that he can't always really carry games, and he chose to play Annie, and Annie's not a superbly high impact character. Annie's not a high impact character. Now, in the original example, which was linked here, Nice played Aatrox, which is pretty damn solid. If you can play one-man army top laner, that's pretty damn high impact. And if you win, you're good. I'm pretty sure this Tryndamere wasn't bronze, by the way. I'm looking at this, so I'm thinking he was playing Smurf or like some whatever. Anyway, he played the game and he won at the end of the day, because Aatrox is really good at carrying mid to late game situations if you're like far above the like enemy skill. Now, Annie is not really, because Annie doesn't have any resets, Annie doesn't have consistent damage, Annie has burst, and that's about it. So envision this. Like, I'm sure you guys have felt this, like, when you play lower elo. Like, what is the most potent character in low elo? Something like Master Yi. Something that's unaccounted for. Like, those characters are almost always going to get to scale because nobody can close out a game. And they will almost always get to 3-4 items. And if everyone's equal skill in bronze, like, Master Yi is going to win a late game. Almost always. So that's just how it works. That is exactly how the priority works. So, whereas in high elo you will never see him, because he will get absolutely destroyed in many cases. I'm trying to paint a picture here, and I hope I'm getting my point across very well. Let's take Vel'Koz. This is something like Vel'Koz impact curve. Something like this would be Vel'Koz impact curve. In early game he's kind of shit. He doesn't do anything. Post level 6 he can't really do anything. Only after 6 he can make some plays. So that's about 6 points. And then mid game is his, so you can make plays, and then after you fall off. Why? Because people no longer get one-shot or punished by you landing abilities. So you can't really burst late game, but everyone has dashes and tanky items at that point and everything. Because in the mid game, AD carry, like, consider this, AD carry no matter how fed it is. You can have a Draven two items in 6-0 coming into mid lane. Mid lane will be generally higher level, and you're just gonna burst him one-shot. Because if he doesn't have defensive items and you land a combo, you will one-shot Draven. So it doesn't really matter at that point. Right? In late game, once it gets like more, once it gets scaling, gets higher HP thresholds, you can't really burst him. And if you can't, he's going to 2-axe you and then you die. So, again, this is like very simplified version of one specific character. Now, there are characters with like different curves. You have something like Kog'Maw, which does like this curve. Right? Kog'Maw is just not going to do shit until it does shit. And then you get shit on. Right? So that's how it goes. So you gotta imagine that there are these different curves of characters, and they will operate in a different way, always. Now you're trying to look for optimal characters in solo queue. What are the best curves for solo queue? It's actually the opposite. Like, obviously you would want everything like super high. You want this like curve, which is just because the game is not very balanced, like in many sense it can never be. So there will always be characters who are just better than others with better curves and better spikes. So that means you're gonna have higher impact, and you're gonna have like less variance in your gameplay, right? Because if you're playing Vel'Koz, like your variance will be weird. You'll be like off the chart. You'll be up, you'll be down. But eventually, if you're a good player, you're gonna get to like 55% win rate, and you're gonna climb. But yeah, that's about it. Now you obviously want the highest curve possible. Now the best things in solo queue are the early game and late game. Those are the best curves, because in early game, even a lot of the games, 50% of them are like basically broken in early game, and people just give up mentally. And then 50% of them are basically people can't close shit out, so they lose in late game to better late game comp. That's it. That's most of solo queue. So Vel'Koz has literally the worst curve for solo queue, which is the mid game, and that one plays more into competitive, but that's a topic for another time. So the champion impact is the key thing in solo queue. Now, if you can equalize the games, and if all of these characters, like this broken character, he plays, let's say, 10,000 games, and this like good solo queue champion plays 10,000 games, and this Vel'Koz player plays 10,000 games. If they all do that, they will be roughly in the elo where they belong. Okay? No matter the curves, because they played sufficient enough games so their player impact is going to come across. But some champions don't translate it very well. So, but if you only do 100 games, who's going to be on top? It will always be red, purple, black. It will always be like that, okay? Unless the variance was just insanely in favor of one guy randomly, and that's just luck of the draw. But on 100 games, you wouldn't really have, you wouldn't have like insane amount of luck. So that operates more the less than n is. So about 10 games maybe you're gonna have luck. So again, I can't stress this enough. Impact is the thing to look for in solo queue, because that's what decides who wins the game, right? Again, to paint a picture, I can play whatever. I'll play any mid lane. Let's use the Curtis example, and I'll farm. I'll do well. I'll win my lane, and I'll try to roam to the win and get my teammates ahead. And I'm a challenger player. Let's say enemies have a Master Rengar. Who do you think has a higher chance to win? Master Jungle Rengar, who has access to everything on the map. He can be anywhere at any given moment. He can find their weaknesses, get fed. And once he gets fed, he one-shots me with no like questions asked, zero counterplay. Okay? As long as he avoids my lane in early game, he's most likely to win the game. Even though I'm higher elo and like our average elo would be higher in that case if everyone else is bronze. So, just because Rengar has higher priority in the game, he's the guy who gets asked first in that case. Like, hey sir, are you good? You know, if you're playing well because you're like 7, 8, 9, you're down in the queue. You're the last kid that gets picked in the playground. You know, like you get asked, like nobody cares what you have to say. At the end of the day, they come like, are you good? Are you any good? Okay, you can win this game. So then you win like 51 out of 100, right? That is a key thing that people, for some reason, miss every time, and that explains a lot of this. So to summarize, these coaches aren't bad players if they struggle to carry a game, okay? If you ever play games in low elo, you'll see that you can like struggle no matter what. You're like, it's not that simple. Depending on the characters, depending on how the game goes, depending on like how the lane states go, maybe you get camped and you're the guy getting shut down. You're playing weak side, but then your teammates are playing strong side and hard losing because enemies are just superior skill, because the variance of skill is super high in lower elo, because some players know how to play the game and some don't. So that's why you need to tend towards infinity games to play to exert your impact on the game. And we obviously can't do that, so we try to do it in the less time possible. So you either try to get a possible playstyle to increase your own impact with what you do, or you just switch to a different character who does more impact. Again, these coaches are not bad players. A lot of it is psychological because people are like, it's for many reasons, but one of them could be jealousy. Like, why are you coaching? Why is this guy Grandmaster? I saw this, he didn't, and I'm silver. You know, stuff like that. Second one, obviously, like the game is tainted. It's not super clean, like who is good. And that one very well ties in with the third point, which is the game impact, depending on the character, on the draft, on the situation. And game impact is not always the same. If the game impact was always the same, you'd have totally fair solo queue. LP would be God at that point. You would know exactly who's the best player in the world, always. But you don't, because there's insane luck variance, so you have to play many games, there's champion variance, and then you get the impact, right? I hope this clears some things up and why some people are struggling. So yeah, I hope this clears things up, so that there's just no clear-cut solution to this to say like, oh, you're bad because of that, oh, you're good because of that. Everything is a bit more complex than you can imagine, so every situation would need to be analyzed like quite heavily to get the right data in there so you can make right decisions. But do not be discouraging these coaches. They've got there like because they're good. They've helped numerous people get there and taught them, most importantly, to learn, not taught them specific move to do, right? So they help people play and learn the game and deconstruct it. So just because you can't win 100% of the games doesn't make you a bad coach or a bad player. Anyway, that's about it. See you in the next one.